Y'all, check out this tobacco. I've never seen a tobacco this tall before. I didn't even know they were capable of getting this tall. The ones we grew last year grew around 4 to 5 feet. Now, what I did different this year with my tobacco is I companion planted them with peanuts. You see these little guys down here? These are all peanuts. They make these little tiny little cute yellow flowers. Mixed them in with all different kinds of stuff. See, this is a Carolina Reaper. I'm very excited about this year. Never had one before. Another thing, you know, peanuts are a legume, so they disperse nitrogen into the soil, which feeds your other plants next to it. And it has been working lovely. The other thing I did start planting are some bush beans. Now, bush beans are great. They also are a legume and put nitrogen into your soil, but let me tell you what, they do climb. They do climb. Let me show you. Check this out. Now, these used to be my tomatillos, and I just kind of let the bush beans go at this point because a lot of the stuff's dying off, and might as well have some greenery on here, you know? So as you see, the bush beans climb. So I have to come out here, see this? Bush bean trying to take out, well, I guess that's okay at this point. The sunflower's kind of gone. But I have to kind of come out here and pull down them in some areas. And this tobacco's gotten so heavy on itself that it's coming down. Next year we will have cattle panels on this row as well to help support these guys. Now, what I love about the peanuts compared to the bush beans is that they do not climb. So they stay low to the ground. You see that? They also, I have not had any issues with pests. I haven't seen anything attack them whatsoever, which is kind of great, right? See, look at this bush bean. See how it's trying to take out my Tabasco pepper here? I keep wanting to call these tobacco peppers. Is that just silly? So I have to just come in here and pull this guy down so it's not taking it out. So next year, instead of bush beans, I'm definitely going to be doing peanuts. And you know, I'm excited to harvest my peanuts. I might try boil some peanuts on my own and roast some peanuts. I can only imagine. I feel like homemade peanuts would be absolutely delicious, just like everything else that we grow in the garden. That's way better than store-bought. The other thing that I love companion planting with is marigolds. They're so easy to grow. See, I've got some right here. I planted these later on. This is getting wild out here, y'all. It's August and it's just wild. Check out these marigolds. They're pretty. They've gotten quite, this is a chamber bitter weed here. You can eat them, by the way, but I just don't really want to. I've always been told that marigolds ward off pests. And so I started planting them, but I wanted to know why they ward off pests. What do they do? I wanted to kind of learn the science behind it, if they found anything. And they have found some things. Marigolds produce a chemical called limonene, and it wards off white flies specifically. And scientists are going to try to disperse limonene onto the crops, farm crops, to see if that can ward off the white flies, because pesticides are just not working like they used to, and they are also harmful. And limonene is very safe to use. It makes up 90% of a citrus peel. It's also found in some household cleaners. The limonene is what wards off the white flies. The other thing that I found that marigolds do that is quite fascinating, they can control root knot nematodes, the bad nematodes. There are some good nematodes. Marigolds can help get rid of the bad nematodes, but there's some things that you need to know about this. Now, you might wonder, what is a nematode? Nematodes are microscopic little round worms, and what they do is they attack the root systems of your plant. They feed off of the root cells, and this damages your plant. It makes it so that your plant is unable to absorb nutrients and water, and it can stunt the growth of your plant and kill your plant. Now, how you want to use the marigold? You can use it as a cover crop. It doesn't work if you just use it as a companion plant. They've tested this out. It's not helpful. It doesn't help at warding the nematodes off. Now, it does help with the whiteflies. So I still really do love using them as a companion plant. But if you're going to use it for the purpose of getting rid of nematodes in your garden, you have to plant them at least 2 months before you put out your main crop. You also have to make sure that you put them in the exact location that you're going to be planting your plant. That's very important. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. If I were to use that, I would just plant them as heavy as I could possibly do on my rows in order to get rid of nematodes. I haven't personally noticed any nematode issues in my garden, but I don't know if I've really been looking for them specifically. The chemical that marigolds produce to keep the nematodes away, I can't pronounce it. I keep working on trying to pronounce it correctly, and I feel like I keep butchering it, so I'm just gonna put it down here and y'all read it, and I'm sure y'all can figure it out a lot better than I can. But what it does, these little nematodes will attack your marigold, but they're unable to reproduce. So that's why it's important to plant them before you plant your main crop. Yeah, one of the things that I have noticed with mixing my plants up and using different types of companion plants instead of just putting a row of tomatoes like you see here, they're starting to die off at this point, is I've noticed less pests. Last year I put my tobacco in just one row and they were getting massacred by tomato hornworms. There were so many of them, it was absolutely ridiculous. This year I have them all mixed in with most stuff. You see I've got 4 here now. They're all coming down because they're absolutely just so tall. Luckily they have the support of the fence here. I've only had about, I want to say maybe 5 tomato hornworms total on my tobacco plants this year. Mixing them up has been amazing. And let me tell you something about that and why that is the case. Bugs have to land on their host plant so many times before they start to lay eggs. They want to make sure they're laying it in a good area. If you have a whole row of tomatoes, well, that's going to be pretty easy for it to get to that point where it's like, oh, this is a great place for me to lay my eggs. And that's exactly what they do. But if you mix things up, if you mix your peppers in with some peanuts and marigolds, and maybe you do some herbs, and then further down you can have maybe another something else in the nightshade family. Just mix things up, have fun with it. I've just kind of had fun experimenting with it. I like the fact that it looks a little bit, what would you say, artistic. I think it looks more artistic when you just mix it all up like that. It's appeasing to the eye compared to just having a row of something, and it has definitely taken my pest pressure off of the 2 rows that I've done this with this year compared to the rows that I just did a solid row of something. So next year I will be mixing everything all up, and we're going to have cattle panels on every row, and I'm pretty excited about that. One of the cool things I learned about pests that I've noticed about my bugs here in my garden, this year I've been really researching about all the good bugs in my garden, the beneficial insects, the predators, so that I'm not squishing those. I don't want to get rid of those. I do organic garden, so I don't spray anything at all. I don't even like spraying neem and all that because that will also kill off and ward off your beneficial insects. But I don't see them right now. I was seeing them a lot earlier. But on this particular row, obviously they're a mess right now. It's called a spined soldier bug, stink bug, whatever you want to call it. They're beneficial and they eat the bad bugs. I just realized I had a bunch of bug guts on my hand, so I had to wash those off real quick. I've just gotten to this point where I just squish them with my hands, which I'm sure most people that would be absolutely disgusting, but anyway, that's what I do. But I've noticed that there's been a huge surge of these spined soldier bugs on this particular row. And I've been seeing here and there, and I have not noticed any of the bad pests on this area, and I was kind of curious why that would be. Well, are they eating them all? What is it? I was able to find some science behind that as well, and I found it quite fascinating. I wanted to share that with you. Scientists have discovered that predator bugs put off a certain odor that the pests can sense. the pests sense it to where it changes their behavior. I'll give you an example. Oh, getting sweaty out here, y'all. It's humid. Ladybugs are beneficial, good guys. We want to see them in our garden. They love aphids, right? Now, if there's a bunch of ladybugs in your garden, they put off this certain odor, and there is a name for it that they've studied and found the exact odor and all about it. I'll put that down here. I can't remember what it was called. So the odor that the ladybugs put off, the aphids can sense that. Instead of the aphids putting all of their energy into reproducing, they put that energy into growing wings. Is that not cool? It's the same thing as like us as humans. We can smell, we use our senses to know that there's a fire nearby, right? We can smell it. That's why in that particular row I noticed all of these beneficial insects, but there were none of the pests that I had been seeing. The more beneficial insects that you have in your garden, by not spraying, and also identifying and knowing which ones to not squish and get rid of, the less pests you'll see in your garden. Not only because they feed off those guys, they also produce that odor to ward them off. Isn't that cool? I just thought that to be quite fascinating. And I'll put those articles, there's a few science articles that I had found with some of the information I'm talking about here in the description below, if you want to learn more about it. The other thing that they're trying to do with the different odors that the predator bugs put off is they're developing these ones. I think they've been working on the one specifically for the ladybug. They're going to see if they can diffuse it out into the crops to ward off pests, because again, pesticides just aren't working like they used to. Y'all, look at this. This is the first time I've seen this. See these little guys? And I wish I had a zoom camera so you could really see. These are eggs from the spined soldier bug. First time. Now, the way that you can tell that they're different, turkey over there, is they have little spikes on them. They have little tiny little spikes if you look close. That is cool. They're gray with tiny spikes. Oh, there he is. This is, they don't bite. This is the spined soldier bug here. That's fabulous. That makes me so happy to see that. And make sure identify those eggs too. That way you're not taking off the wrong ones. Maro, I see that you snuck a tomato here. Is this garden not looking spent? I'm gonna be coming out here and taking out all the stuff that's just not doing anything. Oh, Maro, you startled me. You are a mess. You're gonna be hosed off, girl. How'd you even get in here? Come on. I think that's all I wanted to share with y'all today. I'm gonna go in and cool off because I'll admit it's quite humid today. I'm ready for it to start cooling off. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time.